Nick Drake only gave us 3 albums during his tragically short life. And in 1970, he recorded Brighter Later, and on that album is one of the most interesting songs that I've ever heard. That yet again, as I continue to discover more of Nick Drake, I'm blown away by his use of harmony in what seemingly is such simple context, but then you break it down and you're like, this is brilliant. So I wanted to go over some of that today, in particular on the song One of These Things First. Let's check it out. Yeah, already right there, I'm like, whoa, what was that? I could have been a sailor. Let's take a look at that, because this is what I'm talking about. It's so simple, but like there's little things hidden in there that are like, that was a cool idea, Nick Drake. Okay. Hey, before we continue, I want to tell you about a project I've been working on that is pretty much like the biggest project I've taken on of my life. If you watch this channel, you might notice that I don't ever take sponsors from other companies. I don't take sponsors from things that aren't really relevant to me or you, things like BetterHelp or, whatever. You see all kinds of sponsors out on YouTube. No shade against people that do that, but I was just like, because I do this, I can build something that is directly from me and is built for you, and is actually meant to be useful. So a few years back, I built my intro to piano course. Well, the time definitely has come for me to replace and update that course with something even better, and it has become something that I did not anticipate, which is an absolutely massive project that I'm calling the Better Piano System. If you've ever wanted to play this instrument but you didn't know where to start, this is the place for you. My goal with it was to create something that could get you playing immediately without overwhelming you with like learning note names or reading notes or anything like that. So we literally start just by getting you playing first and foremost without knowing any of that stuff, because I want you to make beautiful music as fast as humanly possible. So in like the intro video, you're already playing stuff, and it's only a few videos in that we're starting to teach you your first song. But then of course, if you want to develop musical freedom and you want to learn all your favorite songs, we do have to add a bunch of context. And so what follows is, it's just so massive, all the things that are going to be in it. And right now it's actually in pre-sale format, but that doesn't mean that there's not a ton of stuff in there. In fact, I guarantee that you will not be able to finish the content that's up there now. There's like over 100 videos already. You won't get through that by the time the rest of the content gets uploaded. I have huge plans for it. There's already hours of stuff and tons of instruction for you to work on. And while it's in pre-sale, you can get it for 75% off. That's 75% off the price that it's gonna eventually be once it's fully released. It's under $100, and that's the best way that you can support the channel. If you like the content that I make here, and you've ever wanted to support me, that's the best way. And I wanted to do it that way because you get something incredibly useful that you can now put to work for yourself and learn to make all the music you've ever wanted to make. So if that sounds interesting at all to you, there's a link in the description down below. Thank you so much for checking that out. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and let's keep going. We have this phrase here. We're keeping our E as sort of like a pedal tone. A pedal tone is any time we play a note and we hold that note in the bass as we move the chords around it. And that's exactly what we're doing here. We start with an E major chord, and we move to an A major chord, which in the key of E is 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the 4 chord. Moving to the 5 chord of B. Now, normally, and kind of the general gist of what we're doing here is we're simply going back to the 4, right? But before we do, we pass through a chromatic passing tone. And we get that. And it's on the dotted quarter. So this is a quick 3/4, it feels like to me. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Ha! Trying to say that and play the other thing. Let me try to get that right. 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. I almost have to say the and in my brain, right? Just to get it right. But that's exactly what a dotted quarter does in a 3/4 time signature. It takes those 3 beats and it divides it into 2 symmetrically. And in order to do that, you have to break up beat 2. So you have to go 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. But because we do that, now we get these almost like two things layered on top of each other. We get the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, but then we also get the 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all happening on top of each other. We can hear that a little bit in this intro as the piano comes in. Right there. Do ba do 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 do. We kind of are feeling that a little bit. So while this is in 3/4, we do have that kind of like 2/3 lurking all the time, and it kind of becomes an interesting thing that we can use in particular for this passing. And it's almost not even worth defining it, right? It's like, is this B flat? We're just on B. Are we passing chromatically through B flat to get back to A? Maybe you could say that. That's technically accurate, but I don't think it's particularly important, because I think what we're really doing is we're just kind of passing through that to get to the 4, right? A passing tone or a passing chord is any time we have something that is not intended to be a focal point. It's more so intended to just be like, it gets us from one place to the next. I can play a 2-5-1 in the key of C, and I can just play exactly as it's written: D minor 7, G7, C. But what I can do is I can add a bunch of passing chords. Like, I can add passing chords in front of each of the changes. So maybe I do, like in this case, it's a chromatic passing, chromatically up a half step. So B flat is 1/2 step above where we're going, which in that case is A. So if I did the same thing here, I would wind up with like D minor, A flat dominant of some kind. Then there's my 5. There's a tritone sub, chromatic. Right, so I could get, and it just adds a little bit of like additional color to it. So yeah, I don't think we need to define that. I don't care, you know, you can define it any way you want, but really we're just using it to move through to A and back to our E major home base. Anyways, long-winded way of breaking down that intro, but let's dive into this. Could have been a sailor, could have been a cook. Now here we're not using it. We're just using 4, 5, 4, 1. I could have been a signpost. Check this out. Could have been a clock. Oh, okay. So after that first phrase, we've been going back and forth, right, from E, A, B, all while using that E pedal tone. Okay, now we're going to get into the next phrase, and it's going to be based on the 4. It's a very common movement. Like, so far, nothing aside from that little thing has really been out of the ordinary. We've been like, yes, this is all perfectly expected, 1-4-5, right? It's 1-4-5 pop song. Awesome. So now we're going to go to the 4 as sort of our next section's home base, and we're going to do something really cool here. We're going to move down a whole step to G major, okay? And then from G major, it's going to resolve straight to E major, okay? That does a couple of really cool things. First of all, when we look at the notes of G major, the root of the chord, by its very nature, happens to be the wrong note for the key that we're in, okay? If we're in the key of E, we expect we're going to find an F sharp, a G sharp, a C sharp, and a D sharp. As soon as we now introduce this chord, it's very simple in the sense that, yes, it's just a G major triad. However, the only note in this chord that fits in the key of E major is B, right? Because G, well, that doesn't fit in E major. D, that doesn't fit in E major. Those notes are supposed to be G sharp and D sharp, right? So by doing this, we are giving our ears something to be like, whoa, that came out of nowhere. Like, I wasn't expecting that sound, especially A is a very consonant sound in the key of E. It's exactly the diatonic triad we expect to find on the 4 chord. But this drops out of nowhere, and the G is also the minor third of the home key, which is supposed to be major, right? E major has a G sharp. So by playing that, listen to that connection. Moving between those two chords, a minor third in between them, it just creates such a cool sound. So to get that chord out of nowhere, coming from the A, and now we're at G major, and we're just like, whoa! I wasn't expecting that. I don't know. I love that.
As a kettle, steady as a rock.
Yeah. Ooh, there it is again. Only now. What a beautiful resolution. G major, F sharp minor. Now that gives us a little bit more of a connection in between the G major and the E major, right? Because by here, now we're going to release it down, and F sharp minor is the diatonic triad we do expect on the 2nd degree of the E major scale, right? So the diatonic triads, what I'm referring to there is in a given, let's make everything super simple. We'll go to C major. If you take the notes of C major and you start making triads, and you make a triad from each degree of the scale, we have the 1st degree of the scale, which is C, then the 2nd, which is D, the 3rd is E, the 4th is F, the 5th is G, the 6th is A, the 7th is B, and that brings us back, right? Each one of those triads naturally is minor or major, right? So we have a major triad, a minor, major, minor. This is the only one that doesn't fit, it's diminished, and then that brings us back. So, moving back to E major, the diatonic triads of E major are E major, F sharp minor, G sharp minor, A major, B major, C sharp minor, D sharp diminished, and that's E major, okay? So, when we find that F sharp minor, we're like, that's exactly what I expect, that's the correct chord for the key here. It's just that G major that really doesn't fit, and it gives us such a cool thing for our ears to be like, wow, that's different. But then we sort of start to release it by going back to a diatonic triad here with F sharp minor, and then let the whole thing resolve back to E. It's such a brilliant chord progression, and it's so simple. It doesn't take very much to kind of add something that just falls outside of that diatonic space to make your ears be like, wow, that is some beautiful color that I was not expecting. 4. Oh, sorry. That's what I was expecting the first time I listened to it, and then it didn't do it. Instead, now for the this is sort of like the line, right? It's the title.
But what are these things first?
Right, okay. It happens again here. Listen to this. 4, and here I was expecting the G major, but we get F sharp minor instead.
But what are these things first?
And then it resolves. Okay, so there, now remember the first time we went to the 4, our next move was to go to that G major chord, right? But here we're kind of wrapping up the whole form, right? We're wrapping everything up, and then we just kind of, we go, now these chords are relatives of each other, right? So A major and F sharp minor, if I could learn how to use my fingers, those two chords are relatives of each other. They use the exact same notes, okay? The A major scale is the F sharp natural or relative minor scale. So that's almost like the only thing we need to do is just change our bass note, because the chords are almost exactly the same. And it allows us to get that 2-1 resolution, which is a really nice resolution, by the way. There's a few different ways we can resolve a chord progression. We have a traditional or just a normal cadence, right, which is a 5-1 resolution. That would sound in the key of E like this. That's something you expect to find, I think, a lot like in, classical music and stuff like that. It's a little less common in pop music. What's perhaps a lot more common in pop music is the plagal cadence, which is coming from the other side of the key circle. Instead of a 5-1, we now have a 4-1 resolution. It sounds like this. sometimes known as like the amen cadence, right? Okay, so what we're doing here, what Nick is doing here is he's literally using a plagal cadence, but instead of it being from the 4, it's from the 2. But remember, we said they're relatives of each other because A and F sharp use the same notes, so it kind of has the same amount of, we're still coming from that other side of the key circle, but by changing the root to F sharp, it's almost like we're making it ever so slightly darker. That's such a nice resolution. We're only moving a whole step, F sharp to E. I love that. That's so nice.
Could have been your
So when it really comes down to it, I mean, that's pretty much the song. We go around again, there's another verse, and then there's an instrumental interlude, and then it goes back again, but there's not really like a bridge in a traditional sense, I guess, right? Because there's this middle section of the A. That could be considered a bridge, I suppose. Unless you're just thinking of that as just part of the verse. But that's it. That's the whole form. And so there's not really much more to it than that, but I just think this is such a great example of Nick Drake's pure brilliance in writing simple chord progressions that have ever so slightly varying sounds that we're maybe not expecting given the harmonic context. And when we hear them, they're enough to just make us go, oh, that was cool, and I really liked that color, and my ears were not expecting it. You don't have to write the crazy... I mean, I know I was demonstrating like all this... You don't have to write all this crazy stuff in order to make beautiful chord progressions. In fact, sometimes it's about taking more things out of it. Despite this being such a quick-paced thing, I love how much space is being left here. I mean, you can see from the music, there's like so many areas where there's just nothing written. It's such a brilliant composition, and it's just, I don't know, I've been listening ever since I discovered Nick Drake recently. We talked about him on the channel. I've just been diving a little more into his music because it is incredible, and it is such a shame that not as many people know about it as he deserves. And as we said in the last video, unfortunately, Nick passed at the age of 26, and he, to that point, did not have any success commercially with his music. It wasn't until at least 10 years or more after that people started finding out about it. And of course now, this is why I do these things, because I like to try to shed some light on this stuff for other people that might also get excited about Nick's music. So I'd encourage you to check out Brighter Later, the album that this is from, as well as the other 2 albums that Nick gave us, because it's really fantastic. But that's gonna be it for today. I wanna remind you to take advantage of that pre-sale for the Better Piano System. That's only gonna be going on for not very much longer, so be sure to check that out. Whether or not you do, I'm so glad you're here. Thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.